Where should you sit at the blackjack table? Most players won't even consider this question, but most players lose money. We're going to discuss the best and worst place to sit on the blackjack table. You'll also want to consider how busy the table is and how you can use that to your advantage, but more on that later in the video. When you approach the blackjack table, you have 3 different options on where to sit. You can sit closest to the shoe in the first box and receive the first cards, you can sit in the middle, or you can sit on the last spot, and this seat has different names such as third base or the anchor. Now, there are positives and negatives to all 3 of these positions, and you'll want to choose based on what's important to you. Let's start with the first base. This is the player that receives the first card and makes their decision to hit or stand before any other player. It's an unofficial rule in the blackjack world that the first seat on the table is reserved for the leader. Similar to how the leader in a Pride of Lions will eat first, many gamblers believe the same rules apply to the leader on the blackjack table. They receive their hand and make the first decision of the game. And now that might sound daft at first, but there is some logical reasoning behind it. Making the first decision of the game can set the order of play and dictate the flow of decisions. The younger, inexperienced players can learn and watch how the first player, aka the leader, plays their hand. For example, in a situation where the right decision is not clear and obvious, the player on the first box can lead by example. Imagine the dealer is showing a 3 and the player has a score of 13. If the player at first base stands on this hand, and if any other players have a score of 13, they will feel a sense of peer pressure to make the same decision when it's their turn to act. Essentially, sitting on the first box is going to give you a subtle, almost subconscious control over the decisions other players make at the table. If the player on the first box is making good, strong decisions, then it's likely the rest of the table will also make sound decisions. If, on the other hand, they're being wild and making unwise moves, this can cause the table to spiral into disarray and start making very daft decisions. If I owned a casino, I'd encourage players that play the game terribly to sit at the first box, in the hope that it would inspire other players to make poor decisions and lose more of their money. If you're ever sitting on the first box at a blackjack table and somebody asks you to move over so they can take your seat, they might be hinting that you're not a good leader and they see themselves as a more experienced player. If they really want that box, I've seen players sell their spot for more than $100 as other players were desperate to take the lead on that first base. If leading the table isn't something you're interested in, then sitting in a neutral spot in the middle of the table might be your best option. I recommend that beginners or more casual players sit in these spots at the blackjack table. You can play your own game, that's if you don't feel pressured to copy the actions of the player on the first base. In fact, having a player act before you can be comforting and give you guidance on what decision you should take. Sitting in these neutral spots, you'll receive no pressure from other players and you can simply enjoy your game. The downside of sitting here, of course, is your lack of influence on the table. You're not responsible for dictating the flow of decisions, and you're also not responsible for deciding what card the dealer receives. Yes, you heard that right. There is a box on the blackjack table that has a massive influence on the dealer's hand. Before we go into that super important spot, let's consider how busy the tables are and why that's a factor we might want to consider. If we're playing in a live casino, and we're taking advantage of their player reward programs, which we absolutely should be doing, then playing at a busy table could be a very lucrative option for us. Here's why. When we sit down at the blackjack table and hand the dealer our player reward card, the supervisor will swipe it to tell the system that we've started playing blackjack and the average bet size we're playing. Our player reward points are calculated based on the expected profit the casino expects to make from us. For example, if the computer thinks we're playing $50 bets for an hour, they would expect to win $200 and therefore give us $20 in reward points as compensation. Now, if we sit at a full table, we're going to play much fewer hands than we would if we were sat on our own, and therefore the player reward system has dramatically overestimated how much money we're expected to lose and will overcompensate us with reward points. Not to mention the fact that if you're subscribed to the channel, you're not only going to lose far less than the average player, but you're going to be a winner. Now, picking a full table is only worth it if the casino you are playing at has a good rewards program. If you're short on time and just want to play as many blackjack hands as you can, then it goes without saying, sit down at a table with fewer players. With that being said, let's go back to the super important and final spot on the blackjack table. So why is this last box, aka third base, so instrumental to the game? That's because this player is the last line of defense before the dealer takes their remaining cards. If this player on the last box decides not to take another card, then that card will go to the dealer should they need to pull another one. With the last box comes a lot of pressure, and you'll often find that some unpleasant players will blame the last box for taking a card when he shouldn't or not taking one when he should have, if the dealer goes on to make a good score. Playing the last box does come with its advantages, especially if you're paying attention. By sitting on third base, you get to see the playing decisions of all the other players before you. This additional information can be helpful in adjusting your strategy and making more informed decisions based on the cards that have already been played. An example might look something like this. You have a score of 16 against the dealer's 7. If you're playing basic blackjack strategy, you would normally hit this hand. But by sitting on third base and watching every player before you receive a low card, you know that there's a high probability that the next card will be a big one. With the additional information you've managed to collect by making your decision last, you can give yourself a slight edge when put in these difficult situations. In terms of where you should sit at a blackjack table, you should consider the type of player that you are and the advantages we've discussed in this video. If you're a strong seasoned player, get on the first base and lead the table. If you're relatively new to the game and just want to relax and play, then sit in a neutral spot in the middle. If you're the type of player that pays close attention to the cards on the table and you like the idea of having a biggest impact on the dealer's hand, then sit on third base. If you really want to increase your profits at the blackjack table, then subscribe to the channel as we share loads of insider tips and strategies that will give you an edge very few players have. Thanks for watching until the end, and we'll see you in the next video.